Welcome back to Let's Play Sin and Punishment Star Successor. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Kachi, where are we?
Some kind of illusion. I think we're inside someone's dream.
Wonderful. Sounds like we found our dreamer. Come on, Kachi. Someone's in for a rude awakening.
This is the ninja level of the game. Its aesthetics are actually pretty creepy, and it's like a cross between... I'd say it's a cross between Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania. You've got all this awesome flashlight action going on. As always, as long as you're shining the flashlight, Slender Man can't get you. And that's because he doesn't exist and is completely stupid anyways. Keep an eye out for the tombstones as you go by. We're going to be destroying a whole lot of them, in fact all of them. There is a medal to be had for that. And there are also 5 of those little shrines in the first part of the level. Take a charge shot to destroy, and if we can get rid of all of them, that's worth another medal. This section's actually fairly difficult. You've got projectiles from the ninjas, who are difficult to see other than the little blue light, or purple light, that's attached to them, and at the same time you have various tombstones popping up and spitting fire at you. So the challenge there is to hit all the tombstones to get the medal. If you don't want the medal, you just have to survive. I'm not sure whether or not that shrine counts towards the 5. I'm pretty sure it does. It's been a while, though. I also do like how the ninjas just bounce freely between the trees. That's pretty cool. You see the last one in the background there, but first we have to survive a wave of ninjas. Now, there are these purple ones, but you might notice there are also red ones. And the red ones fire shurikens that can be batted back as missiles instead of just knocked out of the sky. Important to keep that in mind. And for some reason when I was recording this run, I just completely whiffed on that last shrine a few times. Doesn't matter though, got it in the end. I'm not sure if this is a Kirby thing or not, but I feel like frogs that breathe fire are some kind of Kirby thing. Probably wrong though. Seems far too malicious for Kirby. What I always did find malicious, though, was the challenging stages in the Galaga. They were stages that came, like, every 3rd stage, or 4th stage, or 5th stage afterwards, and the goal was to just figure out where the enemies would come on screen and destroy all of them. They'd go onto the screen and then leave the screen, much like these Medusa heads here. And if you're able to hit all of them, you'd get a massive point bonus, often enough to get you to the next extra life. Here, though, you just get a medal. It's good for 200,000. That's a whole lot of extra lives in Galaga. Or maybe 2. I think they were 30,000 for the first and 70,000 for the rest. Could be wrong, though. It's been a long time since I played Galaga. Necromancer's here. Not really a big deal. I happen to have memorized where they spawn in, so it lets me be right on top of them to slash them to death. This part doesn't really mesh at all with the rest of the level. I guess these are the proto-ninja insects? I guess, yeah, I'll go with that. I'll say that these are the baby forms of those insect-like ninjas we've been fighting. And blocking our way is the first boss of the stage. Skullkeeper is more of a basketball player than a keeper. Living in LA, I get the feeling that Kobe Bryant is never really going to retire. He's just going to change positions and wind up as this guy one day. When he attempts to pass the ball at you, you can bat it back at him, but all that does is protect you from damage. If you can do it 3 times, it'll knock him down once. and if you can knock him down 3 times in this fight, you'll get a medal. That one is, by the way, listed as question mark on all the lists I looked up, so breaking news, Nintendo boss has to be hit 3 times in a certain way in order to get the prize. I'm sure that comes as a shock to no one. What I do like, though, is his move where he tries to dunk on you, and the fact that that is the way that lets you damage him most. Very cool to reject the dunk. Not so much getting bowled over by a chest pass, or a bounce pass. That gets us the medal, and shortly after, Skullkeeper goes down. With a 15 times multiplier, I'm doing quite well on this run, actually, despite all the damage. The hands coming out of the ground are pretty creepy. They remind me a lot of, Deadhead? Is that his name? From Ocarina of Time? The creepy thing with the hands underneath the well? That's the impression I get when I do this part. And we did pick up a medal there. That was for 400 kills. The second one comes at 800. But until then, we get to a flying segment in what's been, so far, an entirely ground-based level. That's the thing about this stage. Most of the game is you're flying around, with a few sections where, running around on the ground is optional. Or, 1 or 2 places where you should run on the ground. This stage is the reverse. It's mostly on the ground, with about 2 air sections, and this is one of them. By taking batting practice with these red ninjas, we can blow up the gas canisters in the middle of the field. I know they say that if you build it, they will come, but I much rather destroy things instead. It's more cathartic. I guess that's why I never really got into Minecraft. Once you finish with those ninjas, it's time for a mini-boss. These 2 shrines don't actually have their own health bar, so I guess they don't rise up to the status of real boss, but they are a pain in the ass. One spawns lasers and the other spawns enemies. And man, do those fire-breathing frogs get me. It's easy to get distracted by them. And that's really how this boss works. It tries to distract you with the enemies, while the other one shoots you. I like to take out the one that shoots first, because I'm always willing to entertain the thought of more enemies spawning. And with that, we're on to the real boss, the Ninja Keeper. Makes a terrible mistake and tries to engage us at short range. And failing that, has a much more potent shuriken attack. I like the way the shuriken attack works. It eventually takes up the entire screen, but there are gaps between the waves, so you get a chance to dodge. Now that we got him down below 2,000, he reveals his buddy, the giant rock frog. I like the giant rock frog. He's pretty cool, and you can get a medal from him in a cool way. Knocking his hand tongue back at him gets you a medal, and casually sidestepping the Ninja Keeper as it performs a frontal assault and then knocking it back into the rock frog is supremely satisfying, though much less lucrative. Does a lot of damage, not so much for the 200,000 points. All in all, though, this is not a particularly difficult boss, but it does have a lot of health. Alright, now it's time to move on to the swamp section. This stage is called the Ethereal Forest, but we're just about done with the forest for now. Now it's time for swamp, and you can see in the background there are these neat little kind of bamboo dragonflies in the distance. They're not really going to harm you or anything, but you can shoot them to get some more kills. I like the frog tower. very impressive. Not really certain how they came up with the coordination required to assemble that tower. But I'll knock it down nonetheless. What would be cool is if they had the ability to let you, like, or if they set up bowling pin formations with these frogs, then had a frog run at you, and you could just bat it back. That would be kind of neat. I guess it wouldn't really fit with the entire aesthetic of this level, though it doesn't stop the game from being wacky sometimes. For some reason I just can't stop myself from getting run down by the frogs at the start and finish of that section. I always forget that they're coming. And we've got a precarious rope bridge filled with plenty of ninjas throwing things at us. That surely won't go wrong at all. Did I say it won't go wrong at all? I mean, there's no way it won't go wrong. And that's going to be our next boss, but first there's a bit of a build-up segment. As we travel along the river, there are plenty of ninjas waiting. Cave full of firefly bat things. Even more ninjas, which I apparently can't hit. And finally, the next boss. Now the neat thing about this segment is that it shows off what all of its attacks are before you actually get to the fight. Which is good, because it's actually a pretty tough fight. There is also a medal to be gained here as well, although it's kind of obtuse. And it's also unfortunate that you can't actually deal damage to the boss in this case, unlike the Horror Keeper. So you have to knock it down with your sword when it rushes you right there, and you get a medal for that. Which, I guess, if you are methodically trying to figure out how to get the medals, that would be a little tricky. But if you were just to, out of instinct, try to slash at it to keep it away from you, then it'd be easier to find. Hitting it once with a reflected projectile gets us some health back. Very useful. And now the boss fight can begin in earnest. This one is tough. It does a very good job of taking away space from you and making you run into its projectiles. The leeches will hold you down in place while it fires missiles at you, or worse, lasers. And it also frequently just unleashes these little bits of shrapnel. They're a lot like, if you played Final Fantasy X, you know the Sim spawn at the very start of the game in Zanarkand? That is what those things remind me of. And in this case, they are bombs. He puts the bombs all over the bridge so that you are forced into smaller spaces so that he can then jump on you. Or hit you with a laser or whatever else he's got. The other thing that's annoying here is that he's constantly hiding his weak point. You don't get a whole lot of chances to damage him. Now on the plus side, even though that shrapnel attack can take up a lot of space, you can slash at these shards once they reach the bridge, and that'll knock them down. You can also shoot them out of midair, and also slash them in midair. Best chance to deal damage is right there, when he leaps at you and gets stuck on the bridge for a couple seconds. This is one case where I think that Kachi's auto-aim is particularly handy. It's not going to do as much damage over time, but with all that I'm missing, when I'm trying to just keep an eye on where his weak point is, I feel like over time I will miss more and do less damage overall than I would if I was locking on automatically Kakashi. Of course, I could be completely wrong. That's the impression that I get after watching this after months after recording. Just about done. One reflected projectile should do it. But of course he's going to go ahead and hide his weak point. And then reveal it just in time for the missiles to get there. Doesn't often happen that way, but when it does, you gotta be happy about it. And just like that, we're about to reach the end of the stage. But not before more tombstones creep up to try to wall us in. This is a good way to get those last 50 or 100 or however many kills you need to get to 800. I certainly appreciate it because there's only one medal left in this stage, and it's an easy one to get. So this will be the first stage that I've ever gotten all of the medals on.
Check out that reflection. This water is mesmerizing. It's hard to tell which moon is real.
Mama, when I grow up, am I gonna be a monster like Daddy?
Well, Lisa, that's up to you. Only you can decide how to use the power inside you. Look into your heart and use that power for what is right. But don't let anyone else decide what's right or wrong for you. Someday, you'll find a companion to help shoulder your burden.
A companion?
That's right, love. And don't forget, Daddy's not a monster, okay? Daddy's just Daddy.
The water reflects the past. What do you see in its ripples? The forest reveals the present. Why do you pass by its trees? The sky presents the future. Its darkness foretells your death.
Can it, lady? Let us out of this nightmare.
Oh, child, don't you see? This is a world of your own creating. Your heart is responsible for what you see.
Whatever, freak. Let's go.
Well, that certainly was interesting. That's, I believe, a flashback to the events of the first Sin and Punishment. But more importantly, we now have to deal with Ariana Shami, the next Nebulos, though she doesn't announce herself as such. Her gimmick is that she releases the Ravens of Time from time to time, and if you can tag up with the blue one, time slows down, and it disables a lot of her speed-based attacks. For example, she often likes to run at you and split into three, and make it difficult to figure out where exactly you're supposed to be dodging and what. But while time is slowed down, you have one less problem to deal with, because her attacks just aren't as threatening.
Think you can keep up with me?
The real trick is, keeping up damage. Dodging is one thing, but when she starts splitting and moving around, and you're unable to lock on with your charge shots since you're playing as Issa, it's difficult to get damage on her. Especially when you're just missing all day with the charge shots like I was while recording this. There we go. Of course it can't be that easy.
My blood is on fire!
and she kind of hulks out. Or at the very least gets Hulk hands, not so much the rest of it. Whole new slew of attacks here, most of which are dodged simply by excellent timing. Generally want to go vertically for the horizontal slashes and horizontally through the water spouts, and it doesn't really matter which direction you dodge for the large explosions, the thunderclaps, as long as you get the timing correct. But that's not all she's up to. Once you take off 500 points of health, she opens up some portals to space and has meteor stalactites come down after you. Now the stalactites are interesting. They both present an obstacle, a source of damage that hits you for, I think, 10 at a time, but they also provide a barrier against some of her attacks, specifically the water shockwave. Of course, nothing protects you if you happen to be standing exactly where she's going to strike. Or if you just dodge straight into stalactite as it's falling, that kind of stuff. Now that she is below 1,000, the Ravens of Time are back, except there's more of them this time. It's in this phase that hitting the slowdown Raven is a lot more useful, because it slows everything down, including the environmental hazards, while keeping you going full speed. Once she's below 500, she begins her final assault. The giant freaking meteor from space. Which I completely forgot how to deal with at this point and was getting kinda flustered because I was just 2 hits away from dying to a boss after collecting every bonus medal in the stage, which would have been incredibly frustrating. But in the end, I remember that this is a Nintendo game, and it wouldn't be a Nintendo game if you didn't have to reflect a projectile back. And with that, it takes out the last 500, and the stage is over. I like to see that 10 of 10 on the special bonuses. It's not going to happen again, but I sure felt good at the time.
That wheel we saw in the water, that was you, wasn't it?
Yeah. Funny how the memories we want to forget most are the ones that tend to stick around the longest.
So humans remember things from the distant past. This planet is the first thing I remember. I don't have a past.
Don't worry. The present becomes the past before long.
Yeah, I guess we're building my past right now. I feel more human already.
Next time, we're on the highway to hell.